It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but soon they will realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend with Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, K-Man. Happy Tuesday. How is everyone doing this beautiful Tuesday morning? Everybody's good? We are here and live and direct in the 345, as they say. Beautiful day in paradise. Nothing but sunshine ahead. I don't even see any clouds outside my window this morning. Well, how are the agoutis in your backyard? Do you have any? I realize that some of you don't. And I tell you what, I realized that certain parts of the island, Grand in particular, has a plethora of agoutis. They are all over the place, crossing my front yard practically every single morning. Pretty big ones too. Yep, as they traverse their day. I saw one the other day that I was a bit surprised, quite frankly, that he was out the time of day that he was. I thought to myself, wow, what's he doing out here? It was like afternoon on a Saturday. Maybe he was going to a party or something. I thought, that's a bit strange. They tend to be a little bit, I wouldn't say nocturnal, but they do tend to move around more at dusk and dawn. Yeah. But apparently they can move around any time of day they feel like it. So let me just check our links here. Very good. Instagram is up. Good morning, Instagram folks. Just had to restart my computer this morning. I do notice that my monitors are in a different order. So I just need to check that with Marlon before he leaves for work, because everything's super small on my primary monitor. All right. In the meantime, while he's getting to me, I'm going to sort out my links this morning. I'm not sure that it matters, except I think my display settings are different. So I have 3 monitors, and normally I have them in a particular order. You know, us human beings, we get used to being creatures of habit. So now that it's not in the right order, I'm just kind of like, what's going on here? So I'll let you guys know. But yes, where was I yesterday? I know a lot of you are waiting for the story. Like, you know, what's going on? So I actually went to Tampa for the day. I flew up on Sunday and came back yesterday afternoon. And there's a big reason that I went. And I'm going to tell you guys all about it. So we have the privilege of Marlon. No, come back. Oh, good grief. Just, can you mute that and come here? My monitors are all in the wrong order. What do I need to do? I don't know how to fix them. If I knew how to fix them, I wouldn't call you. So it's like 1, 2, 3 reversed. Oh. Okay. If it changed the display settings, do I need to redo that? Oh, Lord. Hold on. He's like, what is wrong with this woman? It was so easy. I just forgot how to do it. And these IT people, you know, they're like, oh, really? You don't know how to do that? Let me see now. Identify. Yes. Okay. So I couldn't quite remember. Okay, hold on. Hold on, good folks. Let me just adjust my display settings so I can actually see what I'm doing. It keeps changing it back though. What's going on? Why? Why? Apply. Okay. Identify. There we go. And then monitor number 1. We have to adjust. Hi, Zeus. We have to adjust the display settings for monitor number 1. All right, honey child. Oh, no. Don't start your barking this morning, sir. Don't even think about it. All right, display resolution. It's on the recommended one. And then, I think I need to, my apologies here, increase the size. What? 300%? I still can't see what's going on? Zeus, cut it out. No, sir. No. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. It keeps changing 1 and 3. What's going on here? What's going on? All right. Okay, let me see here now. It keeps changing it. All right. The question is, does it really matter what it's called? I think it does when I go to actually start the computer. Because if it's not sticking. Okay. Part of my brain is like, Zeus, hello. Nope, lie down. Lie down. Stop it. Don't be rude this morning. I think if I don't, then the login is all. No. All right, we got to put Zeus in his chair. Give me one second. Miss Stacy's not here. That's why he's barking at me. All right, hold on. Hold on, Zeus. I'm coming, honey child.
My name is Williamson Henson. I'm from Thirds and Caicos. I just completed my hip surgery in Health City through National Health Insurance Board. I had a dirt bike accident. I hit really hard. I lost some teeth, some metal in my hands. I had metal on my right hand as well, on my left hand. Glass still remains on my knees, and I broke my socket bone, my hip bone. I broke the whole socket bone. And National Health Insurance Board gave me a call on my birthday. It made me cry, but I tried to hold my composure. It made me cry because I was waiting for 10 months. It was on a Wednesday, my birthday, and they say this Monday coming, you're going to Cayman Island to have a hip replacement surgery.
When Mr. Williamson came to us, he had a 10-month-old fracture, which was operated at some other place, where he got a fragmented acetabulum, which was into almost 4 to 5 parts, and his hip was out of his place. Also, along with that, his right leg was shorter than left one by 2.5 inches, and he has a tremendous pain and was not able to walk and stand on that leg as well.
The first surgery affected my lifestyle because certain things I couldn't do for myself. It was all about crutches.
We removed the implant, cleared all the tissue, we put a new socket for there, and then the hip was replaced. And also we corrected the shortening, which was almost 2.5 inches, which came back to normal.
And he actually told me hip replacements in Cayman Island, you're gonna walk the same few hours. And what made me real happy is he said it and it was done for real. I started walking like literally in 23 hours.
Yeah, it's like a complex primary revision replacement. You can see that where you need to have some implants which are really advanced in the world, which we have at Health City. We have a dual mobility cup, which is a state-of-art, newer type of an implant, which is going to be making your hip absolutely stable, more durable, and has to function absolutely like a normal person.
I'll say a big thank you, first of all, to NIB and Health City caseworker and the host from Health City for communicating and well taking care of me behind my back. It was like every time I think about something, they already on it. It was my birthday. I wasn't quite happy because I was waiting on the call to get the surgery done. But I'm happy now it's done. I can walk. I just can't wait to get back to the kids and be like, oh, look at them. Thank you, Health City, for restarting my life with my hip replacement surgery.
All right, folks, that's such a touching story. Every time I listen to that, just brings a little tear to my eye. Yes, Debbie says to tell Zeus to chill out. He's setting Shiloh off. She's concerned. Trust me, right? He just wanted to get comfortable and sit in the chair. My goodness. These dogs. Ay. All right, so my IT problem is not exactly resolved, but it's something I can live with, so we're not going to stress about it. Sometimes these things happen, you know? And what are you going to do? You're going to just keep going. That's what you're going to do. You know, patch it until somebody can fix it for you. So as it stands right now, that would be Marlon after hours. We'll have a look. I don't know what's going on. Somehow my monitors are confused. They have an identity crisis about who they are. Anybody else having an identity crisis this morning? You know, like an existential moment? I don't know. Everybody good? No identity crisis here. Big shout out to Sharon, the station manager for Tampa. So I was telling you guys that I went up for the day because Captain Gary Hides is retiring after 43 years with our national airline. Can I just say he's probably one of the last ones that has that type of tenure. The OGs, you know, from way back when. And so, of course, I've got tons of pictures. I just need to put everything together from yesterday. Tons of pictures. I was on the tarmac. Oh my gosh, I was so happy to have the opportunity to get on the tarmac. I got to tell you guys about that. That was pretty amazing. When she landed, and then she kind of came around, she being our national airline, of course, one of her planes, coming around to the, oh gosh, what's the thing that connects? What's it called? Even yesterday I was like, what is it called again? What is the piece that connects to the plane called? The bridge. Yes, the bridge. So the bridge, which, by the way, not for nothing, but I've never been on a bridge before it was attached, obviously, because I'm a customer. So we always have to wait until the bridge is attached. But can I tell you all something? Oh my gosh. The way that it moves, I was a little bit surprised at how it moves. And so that you got to have good footing, or next thing you know, you'll fall off or something. But anyway, the guy was like, just sit in the chair, one of the wheelchairs, and I was like, no, I'm good. But yeah, it was crazy. It kind of extends out, like it's retractable, almost like a retractable awning kind of movement. So that was pretty interesting. And yeah, that was cool. And so then we walked down, and she attached to the to the bridge, and we got to see him before it even attached to the bridge. He was really surprised. He's like, what on earth is going on here? So I've got my first and exclusive pictures of a plane on the tarmac. Is that not cool? That was, listen, let me tell you the difference between Tampa and Miami International Airport, right? And this is why I gotta really love Tampa. Well, you guys know I love Tampa because I grew up there, and it's part and parcel of my childhood, my coming of age, my university days. There's always so many fond memories. I know last week I was talking to you guys a little bit about some of the Caymanians I met in the early days, because you guys were not going to USF. And I mentioned Peter Campbell, and guess who I saw on the flight yesterday? Peter Campbell. He was coming back to Cayman with his girls after a little vacation. But we got to talk about Tampa. We have got to talk about all the amazing things that you can go and do in Tampa and the surrounding areas, and why I think Tampa is still, for so many Caymanians, a bit of a hidden gem. And a lot of you are simply not going because you don't know any better. That would be the only reason you're not going. Why y'all still trying to rush to Miami? Because even the airport in Tampa is just phenomenal. You get in and out so quickly. Security coming out is always a breeze. Those people are about keeping it moving. They were like, come, just move down. I was like, boy, Miami, you'd be sitting there for an hour. So there's so much that I have to rate them for in terms of their quality of service. I'm just going to pull up some pictures here, get my pictures ready. They are fantastic when it comes to customer service at the airport. Their CEO at the airport, let me tell you what a small world it is. The CEO at the airport happens to be her cousin, who's in Tampa. He was a pilot. I mean, I think he still is a pilot, but he was military pilot in the Air Force. And so, in the US, fraternities are like a big deal. And that's how he knows a lot of the Caymanians here. Well, some Caymanians, because they were all part of that kind of Tampa-St. Pete connection. So he went to Stetson University. Some Caymanians apparently went to Stetson with him, and then some at the surrounding schools. And so, they all met, and he somehow convinced them to join a fraternity. Don't ask me how, but they did. And, to this day, they are fraternity brothers. And, always looking out for each other. So the CEO of Tampa International Airport is actually our cousin's fraternity brother. So when I was telling him about last year, I think it was, when we were celebrating the 40th anniversary, and he said to me, what did you say the CEO's name was? And I mentioned it. He's like, oh, I know him. He's my fraternity brother. And I was like, really? That is so funny. So anyway, I love Tampa, and there are things that they will do and they will accommodate that I can tell you that unfortunately, the other airport, aka Miami International Airport, would never do. They treat us so ridiculous. I mean, I guess we're not a priority. And that's why right now, when you go into Miami, you have to walk like 2 miles to even get anywhere. Yep. It's because they're just like, yeah, we don't really care about you guys. So, let me see here now. I'm trying to find the photos. But yeah, Tampa is just a totally different experience. Absolutely different experience. All right, let me just see. Where did I just put these photos? I could swear I uploaded them correctly. Maybe I didn't. Hold on. So, yeah, so Tampa is, we're at a nice gate in Tampa, Miami. Literally, I don't know how much longer we're going to be at that gate in Miami, but I'm so sick and tired of having to walk all of that way to get anywhere. And then, of course, the lines are oftentimes absolutely ridiculous when it comes to getting through customs and immigration. Heaven forbid you have a connecting flight. I've had people legit miss their connecting flights because there was no way that was going to happen after they stood in line for an hour. But, obviously Miami is a much bigger airport. And it receives a significant amount of traffic. Somehow I think I have, I downloaded it to iCloud Drive. Ooh. Oh gosh, I put it in the wrong place. All right. I will sort that out later. Give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, so this is Captain Gary Hides. 43 years with Cayman Airways. Can you believe it? Such an interesting story. And so on hand, they had Mr. Hunter, George Hunter, who is, he's been a board member, I think, of the airline for many, many, many years. And clearly, he's one of those people that I need to interview for Cayman Voices. As I was sitting there listening to him, I thought, he is the king of aviation knowledge and information. So I'm going to reach out to his daughter and his wife and try to make sure that I get that all arranged. Because I was like, I see what I'm missing here. Missing a little information nugget. All right, so let me just show you. I think I'm going to just open these up in my window here because there's a lot of photos. You guys know we like to take some nice photos, honey chill. So Ms. Sharon Brown is responsible for the station there in Tampa. She's the station manager. And so she really does a phenomenal job. I remember the first time I met her, I was just like, who is this firecracker? Who believes in giving such great customer service? I was low-key surprised. I'm like, she works for Cayman Airways? Really? I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, Cayman Airways really pulled a trick out of the, wow, they hired a really good qualified station manager because, not for nothing, but it took me a minute to warm up to the folks other than Maryland at Cayman Airways Miami because, boy, customer service was a little bit like shaky. And so I was like, ooh, honey child, what is going on here? And so it was refreshing to meet someone and not have, first of all, it was refreshing to actually meet someone and they kind of had an idea of who people were. I'm like, she pays attention to what's happening in the Caymans. You guys know I have to put that in there. The Cayman Islands. She pays attention. She knows not to call it the Caymans, for example. right? Yeah, it's those little things that made you go, oh, okay. Amazing. Truly, truly amazing. All right, let me see here. I am trying to now I can see where not having access to these things in the right order does kind of mess me up. Because I'm trying to drag something over and it's just not happening. These monitors are like, oops, this is where it matters. All right, let me see here now. Let me try this. Hold on. This is so bizarre. Okay, hold on. All right. I don't know. Monitor number one simply does not want to be monitor number one. I've realized. All right. Let me just see how best to show you guys these pictures. I have so many amazing pictures and videos for you guys. So his last flight then, his very, very last flight will be out of Miami today. And of course, we'll get you guys some footage from that as well. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you what the beautiful celebration looked like in Tampa. I mean, it was just really, really nice. It's you know, a wonderful job was done. Wonderful job decorating. The presentations were short and sweet. The folks there, the travelers, were happy to participate. Okay, let me just see if I can do it this way. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's behind me. That's the problem. Okay, we're gonna make it work. All right. So just bear with me as I try to work with a reverse monitor situation here. You guys know how this is. Yes, the theme was The Legend Has Retired. I thought it was a very fitting theme. I don't personally know Captain Hydes, other than to know that we have over the years had some really amazing Cayman Airways pilots, and he just happens to be one of them, and carries himself with a lot of dignity. Let me just see if I can go through these pictures now. Oh my gosh, this is a little bit challenging because I don't seem to be able to get to. My mouse isn't traveling to that monitor. Ugh. All right. Oh yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay, hold on. I was trying my best, but apparently my best this morning is simply not good enough. Ooh, honey child, hold on. I think I'm like legit. Okay. Somehow I think maybe I'm doing it. Hold on. Oh. Okay. I'm doing it, but I don't know how I'm even doing it. Does that make sense? Maybe. Let me see. Oh gosh. Okay. Nope. I'm trying to do it. Honey child. Okay. The problem is I can't control the monitor. It's too, no, that's not gonna work. All right, let me try to get out of all this. Let me stop the screen sharing. Uh-oh. This is when I wish I had a touchscreen monitor, because now I'm so confused about where I'm at and what I'm doing. Mhm. So somehow I'm on that monitor behind me, but I can't get back where I need to be. Oh boy. Hot tamales. All right, hold on. Let me see here. Let me see what we got going on. So when you have multiple monitors, you should be able to, in theory, move from one to the next. But because oh my goodness. Because my monitors are not where they're supposed to be, things are a little bit confusing for me this morning. So I got to figure out how to get back. Oh boy. Oh, come on. All right, let me try this. Display settings. What if I tried moving things around again? Oh boy. Uh-oh. Houston? I feel like I need to call somebody at Tampa International Airport. Houston, we got a problem. All right, let me try this. So if I move this around, there we go. Okay. Smart thinking. Look at me being smart on a Tuesday morning. How about them apples? What a hot mess. Okay. Oh, I thought I had it figured out, but I don't. It's still extend to this display. Still wrong. Okay. All right. So we can't show it to you that way. Anyway, rest assured, I'll put up an album on social media. Just rest assured that it was a beautiful event. And I'm so incredibly proud of the station there in Tampa. They really got out of their way to try to make you feel special. You know, they've some of them have visited, and so they'll mention little landmarks here in Cayman. You know, I hate to tell you, but the Miami folks, I don't think, other than Maryland, any of them have ever been to Grand Cayman because they don't have any idea, you know, they don't know what we're talking about. So they don't know any locations. I'm just going to show you a couple pictures here. And can we talk about the cake? I need to find out who made that cake because everything was well thought out. Here is the card. It was beautiful. You opened it up like a billfold. And so this is the inside. People are able to sign it. And this was the front. Hold on. Let me show you guys the front of it. Sorry to our radio listeners. One of these days, they're going to invent a radio where you can actually see what's going on, right? Mind you, a lot of you have Apple Play and stuff. So if you can get to YouTube, you can watch it right from your, well, not that I want you doing this in traffic, but I'm just saying, you still got to pay attention. But I'm going to get the cake lady's number because the cake was beautifully designed. But more importantly than that, it tasted amazing. Like, seriously. I was like, whoa. At first, I was like, yeah, I don't want any cake. I'm good. Because they always look good. And then when you taste them, you know, the fondant tends to be too thick and all sorts of stuff. This cake, the taste, everything was well balanced. Everything was well balanced. And so it's Miss Janice Blue Cakes, and she's located in St. Petersburg. If you're in the area, check her out. Order a cake for absolutely no reason or any reason at all because it was just really, really good. Nice and moist on the inside. The fondant, the icing was nice and light. And I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, normally these cakes don't really do much for me, but on this occasion, I was absolutely tickled pink. So this was the crew that came in with him. And I was also so pleased to see that he was flying with, on this occasion, a female pilot, a co-pilot. And so big congratulations. Her name escapes me at the moment, but big congratulations to this Anthony. I'm going to come to you here in a second. Big shout out to this young lady here who, was flying with him on his last Tampa flight. I'm sure this must be such a moment for her as well. So Anthony's talk about the I'm going to talk to Kim and Airways about that because maybe they need to run some Tampa specials. Barbara G says I avoid Miami Airport if at all possible. Well, a lot of us go there because we can do a one-day trip in and out. But now that I've discovered I can do a quick overnight. I must say that it was not, it wasn't too bad. Miss Charlene says she prefers Fort Lauderdale. Much better. I hate Miami International myself. Miami International is a big airport. They do get a lot of load in terms of the constant flights in and out. But yes, this is a crew with him. The flight attendants, and then both pilots. And it was such a beautiful event. All right, so we'll post up some more stuff on social media a bit later on today. And I'm going to find this lady. I'm going to see if this woman with the cake has a social media page because I want to check out what other kind of cake she. Yeah, inspiring. I was trying, but it just was not working. So I needed to away to the left, to the right. Huh? I was trying to move across, which normally it goes from left to right, but it just wasn't working. And my brain couldn't. It doesn't seem to be working in either direction, to be honest. Anyway, I'll get Marlon to sort that out later for me. So hopefully tomorrow we won't have this issue. But it's so funny, though, inspiring when you said that. And I was thinking about moving it. I thought to myself, the brain is such a funny thing, how it sees things and how, especially if you're like right-handed, it's hard to do anything with your left hand. But apparently it's good for the brain when you do. So they always tell you occasionally do things like brush with the opposite hand. Yeah. If you're right-handed, that's your dominant hand, brush with your left hand sometimes, like when you brush your teeth and little tasks like that, because it really helps the brain to, So here's Miss Sharon and Captain Hines. Such a beautiful moment there. And so it was a great little party. And like I said, we've got lots of footage of the event. Nice, right? Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'll put up one of my little creative collages and then I'll do all that this morning. So, and we also need to talk about all the little worker bees. Ms. Sharon leads on this, but boy, she had some people helping her out. So can I please acknowledge our own Caymanians, Miss Patsy Cattrall. Here's Patsy helping with the gift. They gave away prizes on the plane. Listen, this was a big deal. They actually, I think it was just a random pick. Like I don't even know how they selected the prizes, but I think it was random. So they gave away. Don't ask me what the prizes are because I have no idea. I did not win anything, obviously. But they were giving away picking seat numbers, and so the passengers were all excited before we took off to win a little prize. So that was nice. And Miss Patsy was there writing up all the gift cards and stuff. Don't ask me where they got all these things from. All I know is they had prizes. They had several gifts for him. They had the cake. It was just lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And Miss Patsy was there organizing everything as well. And of course, Miss Marva Reed, she doesn't work for National Airline anymore. For many, many years, apparently. She's been at Delta for like 20 something years, but guess what? She is a Caymanian, former employee of Cayman Airways. And I guess, all hands on deck because she was there to assist to make sure that this went off without a hitch for the captain as well. So she assisted DJ Marva. Where's DJ Marva this morning? She was there. We had some nice Caymanian music. Oh gosh, let me think of her name now. Her name is Van. Oh Lord, proud to be Caymanian. Help me out with her name. Vanji, is that her name? Definitely begins with a V. Oh Lord, have mercy. Anyway, yeah. So really super, super team, and they came together. All right, here we go. Okay. All righty. Let me see here. So it was fantastic. Let me just see who else we got here. Oh Lord. Y'all have already gone and got Zeus started again. All right. Let's take a quick break for Zeus.
Greetings, Cayman. I want to talk to you today about something that has affected our country for decades. The tension between how we build and how we nurture our environment. For too long, this tension that has led to delays, legal battles, and mistrust. The NCFC government does not accept that we have to choose between a thriving economy and a beautiful natural environment. We can have both. That's the whole premise behind a new initiative called Cayman Forward. The status quo isn't working for anyone. Not for those who build, not for those who protect. So this time, we chose to try something different. Over the past 3 months, government and private sector representatives took part in a structured dialogue process, guided by independent policy consultants. It included stakeholder consultation and a full-day summit, producing a report with 9 key findings and 13 recommendations. This week, caucus and cabinet reviewed and approved these recommendations in full. Implementation is phased across 4 timeframes: 30, 60, 180 days, and beyond. Any legislative changes will go through the usual public consultation process. Our immediate focus over the next month is on 4 things. First, establishing START, the Strategic Task Force for Action, Reform, and Transformation, led by my office, to be the overarching body coordinating the delivery of every recommendation of the report. Second, delegating certain planning decisions from the CPA to professional planning officers so routine applications get a faster response. Third, introducing binding timelines for how quickly the National Conservation Council, the Central Planning Authority, and the Development Control Board in the Sister Islands must respond to referrals and applications. No more open-ended waiting. And fourth, requiring that these entities regularly publish their minutes and their reasoning so the public can see how decisions are made. We are also advancing work on an updated National Development Plan, which will come to Parliament later this year. Cayman Forward has given us a clear roadmap for a shared decision framework based on evidence and collaboration. I want to thank everyone who took part. It hasn't always been easy, but people who haven't sat in the same room in years came together in good faith and found common ground. That gives us real hope. I believe we are turning a page, building in Cayman, where we look after our people and our land for this generation and future generations. Thank you, and God bless.
If you're a parent right now, you already know the cost of living has gone up. Rent, childcare, groceries. When the cost of living rises, government must rise to meet it. And we have. Under the revised ECAP policy, our Early Childhood Assistance Program, we've increased funding to keep pace with what families are actually paying today for their children's early education. Who benefits? A father working every hour he can. A single mother doing it alone. A grandparent raising grandchildren they love. Maybe that's you. Up to 235 Caymanian children will benefit directly. And I want every single one of them to have the start they deserve. That is why we are here. If you've applied before and been disappointed, I encourage you to try again. If you've never applied because you assumed you wouldn't qualify, now is the time to find out. And if the funding didn't feel like enough before, it should now. Is your child 3 years old and Caymanian? You may qualify. Visit us at moeapplications.gov.ky and apply for the 2026-2027 academic year.
All right, my apologies. Total chaos around here today. Okie dokie. We're all settled back in now. Good morning. Anyway, like I was saying, I'll post up all the amazing stuff around Captain Hydes' retirement. And if you see him, you know him, congratulate him. You know, it's I think it's a wonderful position to be in, to retire. I don't think I will ever retire because I feel like what I do for a living is something that I just love, and it doesn't even feel like work most days. And so that's not in the cards for me. Like, I want to be 102 and still working. Yep. Because what am I going to do if I retire? I'm going to be bored to death, not keeping y'all informed about what's going on. So nope, we're not retiring ever. But I think, you know, it makes sense when you're in certain jobs, you're an airline pilot and so on, that obviously there just comes a time when you got to move on. And so congratulations to Captain Gary Hydes. Well done. All right. And we will talk about, you know, I do, as I travel and I see things with our national airline, I make some observations about certain things. And today is not really the place or time for that. But we will certainly be making some of those critical observations on how things can be improved, because there's always room for improvement. And there are people themselves elsewhere in the organization who should be thinking about retirement. And sometimes I wonder if those people don't recognize that their usefulness has definitely come to an end. And sometimes they weren't all that particularly useful to begin with, but, you know, it's becoming more and more evident. By the way, Cayman Airways, I hear we got some competition on the horizon. Even out of Tampa, there are some airlines that are going to be offering direct travel from there to Grand Cayman. So guess what? We got to step up our game. We have got to support our national airline where we can. We need to encourage people to travel to different destinations that the airline goes to, and obviously pay attention to what's happening across the markets, because slippage and the airline business, which, for the record, I've always said this, but in case y'all missed the memo and we're not paying attention, the airline business is a very difficult business to be in. It's oftentimes, as we see with the one that just went belly up the other day, it's not always as profitable as people think. people come in with ideas, oh, we're going to do a budget airline, and then they find out how hard that is when fuel is your number one expense. Over the years, we've made a lot of adjustments. We have done everything from, no pillows, no blankets, no this, no that, charging you for baggage. And I've said, listen, if these things are necessary, because the industry has changed so much and we have to keep up with industry trends, if these things are necessary, thank you, Anthony. Vashti, yes. Vashti Bodden, beautiful young lady and really quite a lovely singer as well. And I love, love, love her song, Proud to be Caymanian. If you haven't heard it, I wonder if she has it on iTunes or anything. We'll have to find out. But yeah, this is a very competitive industry. And it's, it's not just a matter of national pride for us to have a national airline. It goes beyond that. It is also one of practicality. We have, those of you who are listening to Friday's show, you'll know that we posted and we shared an interview with the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, the Honorable Ralston Anglin. And there was so much information packed into it. It was like an hour and a half. I'm going to load it up on social media, but I do know it was a lot of information. And so I also recognize that you probably missed bits and pieces of it, but there was a point when he talked about this Cayman Airways and the supplement that we just gave Cayman Airways of some $13 million. And, he explained it. I thought he's very, very good at explaining things, and especially complex things around our finances. And so I was really happy to hear him talk about the value of our national airline and why we do subsidize it and keep it afloat. It goes beyond just national pride, right? Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Oh, hold on one second. Let me just make some adjustments here because we cannot hear you. So let me just see if we can get you plugged in there. Let's try that again. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. All right, give me 1 second. What I'm going to do is just restart the phone because sometimes we have to do that. After a long weekend, I've noticed that it kind of disconnects often from the board, and then it gets a little bit temperamental. So we'll restart it and then try to give that caller a call back. So yes, thank you, Anthony, for reminding us in the airline industry that there is a mandatory retirement age. And again, that makes sense, given the important job that they do, the safety elements of making sure that pilots are as fit as they possibly can be. There's a reason why they often have two of them in the cockpit, especially for commercial flights, larger commercial flights. Yes, so there's lots of safety reasons why they have a mandatory retirement age. Thank goodness there's none in the world of media, honey child. Because we're going to be flying high. Ooh, I got some sus to tell you all, but I'm not ready yet. Let me see here now. Let me see. Caller, I'm trying to find your number. How did you call me? Did you call WhatsApp? Okay, it's not showing up. Wait a minute. All right, caller, call back if you don't mind. Because, oh, hold on. Let's see. Was that Johan calling us this morning? It didn't show up as him, so, but now it, hello? See, it's still not kicking in. Hello, good morning. There we go.
Morning, Auntie.
Oh, that was you. For some reason, it wasn't showing your name just now. Weird. Good morning.
Because I got you on block.
Oh, please. You could never block those brownies, you greedy little thing.
Listen, I don't want your brownies no more. You decided to put me on pause. I can show you what pause looks like.
Oh, poor you.
I just do not wait, get extra sex in, you can warm me.
Not in this lifetime. What's on your mind this morning, sir?
Auntie Sandy, I'm going to ask a favor of you.
You're gonna what? Sorry.
I'm going to ask a favor of you.
Oh, you're bold.
No, I need, because everybody that wants to get their message across comes to you, is on your platform, and talks about important issues, especially elected and non-elected officials that are responsible for the management and the direction of the country.
Okay.
The next, any minister, but especially those that frequent the show and that are articulate and verbose, can you please ask them on behalf of me and people like me and all Caymanians, what is their vision for the country from an immigration perspective? The reason why I ask that question is because you look at the cost of Cayman Islands government. It's reported to be $700 million per year, right? Now, there are some outstanding civil servants. There truly are. There's some people that are dedicated across the spectrum in the civil service that have dedicated their life to quality, consistency, and serving their divisions, departments, and what they do. However, if you look at the population of the Cayman Islands now, and if we've reached 100,000 people, and you break that down, how many multi-generational Caymanians do you think exist within that group of 100,000 total population? I figure maximum 35 to 40,000, maximum. And when I say multi-generational, let's go beyond second-generation Caymanian, those that have received status or the status grants in the last, I would dare say, since 2002, right? Let's talk about people that you know you can trace their lineage back to their grandfather's grandfather, and so on and so forth.
We do have open mic, but I think you've gone into an area that what I will say is this: we would love to have this conversation with the elected members who are actually responsible for immigration policy. I mean, but that's not happening. So the government as a whole, when the premier is on next time, we can certainly ask him the question about what their vision is for immigration reform. They have been the only government that has taken on any substantive immigration reform in multiple decades, though. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
That is appreciated, and it causes a lot of consternation amongst those persons that are not Caymanian, that or are newly Caymanian. And what happens in Cayman is you have a lot of people from the outside that raise their voices, raise their concerns, and they tell you how things could be, should be, yet they choose to come here. They choose to stay here, and they choose to forget that they found multi-generational Caymanians here. So the reason why I'm asking to ask all the government officials, I didn't just say Minister Miles, who made it clear that he won't be frequenting your show, but you have other ministers in cabinet that come on the show. And it would be good if they could set the stage as to what are they thinking, what are they going to do, and what are their plans to ensure that the multi-generational Caymanians, who are the minority in their own country, actually are part of the process whereby we are at the front of everybody's mind in how we go about governing the country, growing the country, developing the country. Because the people here in Cayman that make the most noise aren't Caymanians. We're pretty much docile if you compare us to a lot of the other countries in the Caribbean. It's those that have come here. It's those that have decided that they are never leaving here. And it's those that have figured out, well, I'm Caymanian now, and this is how we do it in Canada. And this is how we do it in England. And this is how we do it. And this is how we do it. And my point is, you have the options of going back there. What we need to do is have a Cayman-centric discussion on how we, all Caymanians, not just the new ones, but all Caymanians, helping to craft a vision for the kind of Cayman that we want. Because it is disgusting to hear somebody who has received PR or status talk about what Cayman should do when they don't know any Caymanian people. They've never gone into a Caymanian person's home, and no Caymanians ever visited their home. But
what are we? You're just talking in general terms, or there's something this morning that was said that got you to thinking along these lines?
No, I'm just using.
Okay.
You had a lull in the show, and you were talking about some interesting stuff. But I'm talking about
obviously not interesting to you because you totally changed the subject.
No, but well, how many times did we mention your retirement and how much fun you make and what you're going to do?
Nobody's retiring, but I mean, this is obviously a topic that you this is your topic because you.
Let me explain. everybody that I see on the road,
Yes.
people I don't know, just like you, boy, the next time you talk to Auntie Sandy, you know what you guys need to talk about? You know what you need
Really?
to do? You know what you need to say? And I say
Yeah.
to myself, and I say to the person, well, you can call in Auntie Sandy as well, because Auntie Sandy shouldn't be the only person driving that national discussion. Like, it's a participatory medium.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
great stuff. And
Absolutely.
you should feel away. But again, half of our problem is we want everybody else to take the chance. We want everybody else to say something. Be brave. Be bold. Be what our parents and forefathers were. They were brave men and women that didn't take no nonsense and told you exactly how they felt. But today, I feel that we are weaker, and we're more hopeful that somebody else will fight our battles for us. And that's what makes it easy for people to come in here and to try and change what Cayman is, who Caymanians are, and completely ignore the generational connectivity and spine that we have, because you come from a long line of Caymanians. I come from a long line of Caymanians. But when we hear people talking about Cayman, they're trying to create a new Cayman that resembles nothing like Cayman. It's like something that they've come from. And again, I'm not saying this to be mean and horrible, but if Cayman not working for you and you want to change it, why are you here? Oh, it's the ability to make a whole lot of money. It's the tax neutral status. It's the fact that you have amassed potentially more money and earning abilities here in Cayman than you could ever do back home. But money doesn't give you power, and money doesn't give you the right to speak down to Caymanians and to basically change what we have here. We need to be the architects of that. We need to control, and our elected leaders need to help us understand, what are we going to do to make it harder for people to get PR and for people to get status, especially people that don't give two hoots about what they found here, the people here, and they have no interaction with Caymanians. The only time they'll speak to you is, could you do me a favor? I'm applying for PR and I need a PR letter. If you look in corporate Cayman, that's when they reach out to you. Before that, they cross you in the hallway, they cross you in the elevator, they cross you in the kitchen. And people that come here don't understand something as basic as good manners, a good morning, a good evening, a good night, a good day. But yet, when they need something, the Caymanian is good enough to, would you write me a PR reference letter? Hell no. I don't know you. You don't know me. I've never been to your house, but now I'm good enough to vouch for you. So let's change the system, and let's make sure that we are having the right people that actually care, that respect, that want to integrate and want to work with Caymanians and build a Cayman that represents all of us, not just a Cayman where the members drive the bus.
Thank you very much, Johan. Appreciate it.
Cool. Take care.
All right. 936-2626. Tell me what is on your mind today. All right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there for sure. And there are some days, let me tell you, I know, like I said, obviously this is Johan's topic, but how can I say this? There's some days that we can't have the same conversation every single day, as important as that conversation is. I think conversation fatigue is a real thing. So we all agree with him, but to do a deep dive on it every single day, it's impossible to do. Sometimes we need fresh perspective. You know, even the elected officials, that's not the only thing that they're charged with. They're there to make our lives better, but they don't do that by just fixing immigration, because number one, it's not an easy fix no matter how you slice it. There's certain things that cannot be undone. Speaking of that, we will have a conversation about some of this stuff later on this week, because we're going to have Miss Marla Dukran on the show, who is encouraging you to participate in her recent population survey. And part of that is the questions that Johan keeps asking about, you know, defining who we are, what are we doing, what direction we're going in. All of that is part of the bigger and wider development plan. Even that video that we just played with the premier talking about the balance of the environment versus development being such an important one that we have to get right for the very same multi-generational Caymanians that Johan is talking about. But to be clear, and this is where I want to have all of you understand, in law, there can be no difference, and there is no difference between someone who has status and someone who is a multi-generational Caymanian. These now become issues of, yes, human rights challenges. And despite what y'all think is happening in other places in the world, including even the United States of America, because you say, oh, well, Trump could do this, and he's actually not doing it, despite some of your desires, because the courts are overturning pretty much everything that he thought he was doing. Birthright citizenship, he can't get rid of it. You know, there's certain things that you cannot constitutionally change once they are set already. Now, we don't have birthright citizenship, so we're in a totally different situation. We can make changes to how someone acquires residency, PR, and then eventually status. We can make it revocable. There are certain things that we can do, but once they have the status and they are not doing anything that would make it revocable, for example, you can't say, well, you're not going to be entitled to certain rights because you're not a multi-generational Caymanian. That is not going to happen. And so I'm very, very cautious when we have these discussions that we do so with a tint of realism in there, right? Because I can sit here and beat my chest all day long, talk about I'm pro-Caymanian, and that means to hell with everybody else, and there's no balance in this, and they don't have any rights and whatever, and that is not an equitable situation. It's not a fair situation, and legally, it's also not going to happen. So I don't want y'all to think that, you know, well, Auntie said that, you know, we can have all the jobs. No, you know, we don't even have the population for that. And there's still things that we ourselves need to do. As much as we can talk about the dirty expats that come here with their stinking attitude, and yes, nobody wants them here, nobody likes them. Even their own expats oftentimes are like, what the heck, right? But we can't resolve that issue if we ourselves are not ready to step up to the plate. And this is one of my bigger concerns. If we're not doing what we need to do, right? So we talk about, for example, the civil service. Okay, we need more Caymanians in the civil service. So I think there's, you know, a good percentage there. Finally, we're going to start rolling those people over. But if we don't have Caymanians who are trained in the positions and willing to take on those jobs, what good is it going to do you getting rid of, you know, other people? Sometimes highly qualified people, I might add. Sometimes our Caymanians are our own worst enemies. So putting a Caymanian in a position of power, Johan said, money doesn't buy you power. Well, I don't know what world he's living in, but okay. Sometimes putting Caymanians in a position of power where they do the hiring, the firing, I can tell you is not always a good thing either, because they are our own worst enemy. Right now, I have people complaining about a particular agency, and it's only going to be a matter of time before it comes to head. And who do you think is in that position but a female Caymanian? You know, and I'm not talking about no fly-by-night Caymanian just came here one generation ago. They brag that they're one of the white Caymanians that have been here for 15, 20 generations or whatever. Our own people making our own people miserable, bullying at work, and all this sort of stuff. So be very clear. I'm as pro-Caymanian as you can get, but in order for me to be pro-Caymanian, I need to hold all of us accountable and tell you that some of you are simply not ready to take up the reins of anything called leadership. Y'all, some of you are an embarrassment, even on the political level. You're an embarrassment to this country. You can't even string a sentence together. Some Caymanians are as corrupt as you can possibly get. And so caution, don't throw caution to the wind. You have to, you know, be very, very careful what you're seeking to do and how you go about doing it. Because sometimes, as I always say in this program, there are unintended consequences. When I was in South Africa, I found their position very, very interesting, where they basically demolished, apartheid overnight. And what they replaced it with wasn't necessarily having really qualified African people of color. A lot of it is, you know, if you're part of the political party, and your uncle is a lead in the political party, you're going to get a job regardless of your competence level. And that does not bode well for the country. So we need to raise our standards. We need to make sure that our people are achieving certain academic or other skills, you know, and they're ready to take charge. I'm just saying. YouTuber morning, Natasha. Natasha says kaboom. I'm not sure if that was for Johan or me, but nonetheless, kaboom to somebody this morning. K-Man has been too docile for too long, says YouTuber 345. The expats that we're getting now are not the ones from the 80s or even the 90s. Very much an entitled community. I would say that, you know, ultimately, changes happen, and I don't know what's happened in the world, but the caliber of people I think have changed from the 80s and 90s in any event. But yes, by and large, I think most of us will agree that those people that we got in the early days of Cayman's integration were understanding of what they were coming here to do. It reminds me of the Cayman Voices interview I did with Miss Susie Soto. Very, very interestingly. And she was saying to me that, you know, when they came here and they opened up the first hotel back in East End, how they were like pushing Caymanians. Once again, Caymanians were not, oh no, they can't take that job. They can't be front line staff. They can't talk to the tourists. Caymanians are afraid of their own shadow. And I'm not so sure that a lot has changed for most of you. And, you know, she's like, no, we were like, you're going to take this job. You're going to be, you know, front desk manager. You're going to be talking to the tourists. And they didn't want to do it because they didn't believe that they could do it. And so back in those days, you had people pushing you in the direction to do it. Part of the reason why, though, let's also be very clear, is the economic success wasn't here yet. Of course, it's easier to push you up front when it's like mosquito pans and, you know, this hotel project is probably not even going to be a success. They're like, listen, you Caymanians need to get out there and hold your own. When the success story is already built, right? People can come here and become millionaires overnight and all this sort of stuff. Then all of a sudden, it's a very, very different country. And what attracts people here is also different. So yes, they are here to compete with your jobs. Johan, nobody was talking about that this morning. You know, sometimes Johan legit gets on my nerves, and I can see why he was blocked to begin with. And I have this very innate understanding that it's only a matter of time before he gets blocked again. But in the words of Aunt Lottie, give them enough rope. I sit here every day. Aunt Lottie would say, give them enough rope. Roll it out. Woo! Roll it out. There you go. There you go, Johan. Because it's only coming again. And the next time you get blocked, you don't know what the score is. Nobody can ask for you to be unblocked under any circumstances. Cinnamon 3742 says, looking forward to the show with Miss Marla Dukran. Her report was very fair and clear-eyed. Well, one thing with Miss Marla is she really relies on data. That's why I like her too, Cinnamon. It's data-driven decisions and discussions. And, you know, a lot of times she's not here to tell y'all what the answer is going to be. She's just here to agitate from the perspective of, think about this. You know, are you guys having any real, oh my goodness, me and this mouse today are going to fight. Somehow I've made it across to the other monitor and I can't get my mouse back. There we go. I think I know exactly what's going on. As who was it that said it's going in the opposite direction now, and that's the problem. All right. Big shout out to Vashti Bodden this morning. Good day. I'm looking for Jamaican ID passport. Have you seen it? Well, it would help to tell me your name. That would help anytime you're looking for something like a passport, but I have not seen anything. All right, we are weaker because Cayman DNA was watered down, mixed with neighboring countries, namely Jamaica, whose ethos is different. Thanks to open border by McKeeva, this cannot be undone. It will only continue to deteriorate. I cry for a real Caymanian. Cayman has to follow ECHR rules, which is ruining England. If we had real leaders to rule ourselves, things would change. Sadly, we don't have a MIA like Barbados to lead the way. Well, we're also not a independent country, my apologies. We have to remember we are a BOTC. And that comes with certain privileges and certain restrictions as such as well. And so I think that's important. We don't have the same constitutional structure at this point in time as Barbados. So that changes a lot in the game. This person says, good morning, Sandy. Congratulations to Captain Hydes and his retirement, because it was wonderful flying last month with you for the last time. Let me reread that. Cause, as in, that's their cousin. It was wonderful flying last month with you for the last time. He did such a great job when Cayman Airways was having a problem with its landing gear approaching Grand Cayman a few years ago. Excellent, Captain. We love you, cuz. Johan is correct. The government needs to get some rules for the new Caymanians. They come here making their money, and then if they buck their toe on a government property, we get sued. They get the money, it will repeat again, and set something because the place is a money-making place for them. Well, again, when you give that as your example and you say that, I mean, you can't take away somebody's right to sue, regardless of who they are, if they get injured and they can prove that it's somehow government's fault. So this is where I have to ensure that the conversation is, like I said, we can be as pro-Caymanian as we want, but if this conversation actually isn't accurate and doesn't make any sense, and you think you can take away someone's right to litigate or to sue just because they're a Caymanian, that's never going to happen. It isn't going to happen. So, I want to make sure that at all times we're having these conversations in the proper context, because otherwise all of you will be presented with fool's gold. You'll think that something can happen when it cannot happen. And so I think that, that's that. I'm here to keep y'all balanced and realistic. Someone says, on whose behalf is Marla doing the study for, or is it something she decided to do on her own? So this is one of the questions that we will be asking her for her to give a full explanation. And but what I can tell you is it is the latter. No one asked her to do this, but we'll get her to provide all of the details. I might be able to secure her as early as tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. Seems like nobody ever asked the paper Caymanians what they think of things. This person says, if Johan always walks with a chip on his shoulder, it makes him look negative. We've always been having this discussion and things are changing. Young people are sick and tired of the immigration divisiveness, I think is what it's supposed to. It says decisiveness, but I think it means divisiveness. The newcomer, the new Caymanian, and the traditional Caymanian. Can we all live in peace? That one made me chuckle. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Yes. All righty. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy. I don't want to become a referee between you and Johan, because both of you can handle yourselves pretty well. But let me just join the conversation by saying that I think both of you are really saying the same thing. But since Johan hung up I think you have refined the thoughts very well. That people must appreciate that if you do not have a Caymanian who can do work, you have to hire somebody from outside. But I think still there are a number of things that, as much as I give compliments to this government for what it has tried to do, it seems to me this government and some successive governments have not quite addressed some of the finer points. For example, the issue that Johan raised, which was, I think he said that the estimate of those people who are generational Caymanians, I prefer to refer to them as Caymanians as of right, because there are some people who, when you say generational Caymanians, then they say, well, but with me, only my mother or my father is a Caymanian, so am I a generational Caymanian? So they feel like they're excluded. So I prefer the expression Caymanian is of right, which is also defined in the immigration law, which just means you've got at least a lineage in Cayman. Now, in Dr. Mikana Scott, a young Caymanian who did a PhD, finished it, I think, 3 years ago, she did the research. And she found that in the job situations, she found there were only 28% of people who could be described as Caymanians of right. And this was about 3 years ago. Okay, and to me, this is an issue that government really should address. What are your targets? Where are we now? Since Dr. Scott said that it's only 28%, to me, I think that it's somewhere around 25%. And then I find that, like, for example, in government, in the portfolio I was in, I can tell you that in Canada, for example, you can't draft legislation unless you are a Canadian citizen. And most of the people who draft legislation are Canadians by birth. And yet there has never been a recognition, really sufficient recognition, in my view, in Cayman, that it is important to have jobs such as those people who draft your legislation, people who prosecute you, people who do your civil cases, that they should be local people. There have never been those targets set to try and do that. And then you get people like me who came to Cayman and wanted to make it my home. I had somebody who came in, a Caymanian, generational Caymanian, West Bay, came in and wanted to learn how to write legislation. And I told my head of department, who was a status holder, I said, well, look, I've got a lot of background, which he already knew anyway, about training people in legislative drafting, both in a formal setting as well as in the office. Can I train this Caymanian? That status holder said, no, you want to train a Caymanian? You are not going to train a Caymanian. Do you see? So those of us who came in neutral are above the politics and say, well, look, I'm a little secure in my own little position, so I can train a Caymanian. You had these people, these status holders, who say, don't train this Caymanian. And then you know what happened in that particular case? That Caymanian then went to the deputy governor and said, well, look, these people don't want to train me, and that's a very, very long story. But the deputy governor just said, well, just do what your boss is telling you to do. To me, that's not vision. Let me close on this point. I always love referring to Kenneth Bryan when he was in the backbench. He got up in Parliament, put a motion he brought a motion to say, look, let us set some targets to say that by a certain year, the heads and deputy heads of all government institutions, we must aim that they should be Caymanian. He never got support either from the government or the private sector. And yet, in my view, what he was asking for was not even enough. So I don't see these targets being set. Just like in immigration, they don't say how many statuses do we want to grant. What can we do locally? For example, the judges, for example, you could have had 2 or 3 Caymanian judges who are qualified, but still they were not appointed. So my point, there is still a lot that needs to be done for people to be convinced that these governments have got a vision for the country. That's my answer for today.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And what I would also say to add balance to the conversation is Rome is not built in a day. Rome is not destroyed in a day, and Rome cannot be rebuilt or fixed in a day. So I'm all for reform. Like I said, this is the only government in decades that have taken on any form of immigration reform that one would consider substantial. But at the same time, they have other things that they have to do, right? And they have to pace themselves. And like I said, immigration is not linear in terms of how you fix it. It is a very complex topic with many, many moving parts. That's why we can't just have conversations where we're like, oh, it's just this, right? I have a Caymanian first mentality, but I clearly understand that in the real world, that means Caymanians have to be first in education before we can be first in the workplace, right? So if we're looking to rejig things a bit and build this country for us, it wasn't undone overnight. It has been decades and decades and decades, right? One of the biggest things that happened was the mass status grants, and that's now been over 20 years ago. But there are other things that have happened before then and along the way, right? And none of that, you can't just jump up in one swoof and expect a government who's been in for 1 year to undo and change all of that and be critical with them if they haven't done it overnight. Alfred had me chuckling. He says, what did he say? Johan, someone get blocked again. Listen, Johan will never get blocked for respectfully sharing his opinion. That's not what we do here. He will get blocked for any other nonsense that he carries on, but it won't be that. It won't be that he has shared his opinion in a respectful manner. Marjorie says the people that came in yesterday did not necessarily come for economics. The people coming nowadays are coming for economics. Is that a fair assessment? I think it certainly depends. Nobody generally speaking, there are some exceptions, but people don't just move up their lives and go somewhere else to have it worse. They saw opportunities back in those days, whether it was building the first hotel, building up the dive industry, because nobody else was seeing that nugget, right? And so they came during rougher times for sure. And they were picking up very rough nuggets that they were polishing and trying to make into that gold nugget or diamond or whatever, but they saw the potential. I wouldn't say that they came here because they were altruistic in some way and they're willing to be killed by mosquitoes. I mean, I don't think that was probably, what it was all about. I think in those days, the economics all over the world were challenging. And so if you thought, oh, this country is still underdeveloped, it was easier for them to come in then than it is now, by the way, from an immigration perspective, just saying, right? And they could get here and start up businesses and start up industries because no Caymanians were doing it. Why not? So I think sometimes we gotta understand the context of what was happening in those days, right? Caymanians weren't here talking about, well, we have beautiful oceans and whatever, let's start to market it. It was some foreigner who came in and saw the beauty of what we have in the dive industry, and they were like, oh, you guys don't even appreciate what you have. Well, let us show you. Yes, they were willing to integrate with us to a certain extent, because a lot of them still didn't want their children marrying y'all. I'm just saying, let's be real here. If we're talking about true integration, the buck did stop at a certain level. But, they were cool up to a point. They're willing to have you come into, the yard, and they can still give you a plastic cup and then throw it away when you went out, when you turn your back. I mean, but again, our own people were doing that. I'm just talking about the realities of what we're dealing with. So those days, for some of you, you look back on it, if you were around in those days and you have fond memories, you say that, oh, the people are integrating more and this and that and whatever. I'll give it to you up to a certain point, but let's not go a little bit too far. Were they more respectful? Yeah, probably, because they had no choice. As you go on to say, Caymanians were not in the minority, so they did not feel threatened, and so we're often more open and accepting of expats. It's the opposite today, and Caymanians now feel threatened, and so are not as accepting of expats. And I agree with that, Margie, and that's one of the things I always say is one of the reasons why I do try to give as much space on this platform to have this discussion, because I think on the one hand, if people are not able to express how they're feeling marginalized and what that means, average Cayman, then things will only get worse, right? and we're getting it from all directions. But once again, the person said, oh, back in those days, well, now we have people coming from Jamaica. People have always come from Jamaica. Always. I mean, it's our closest next country. So, yeah, the ties between Cayman and Jamaica, the familiar ties, have always been there. Think about some of the Caymanian families that have come by way of Jamaica, the Fosters, I'm sure probably the Kirkernels, all these people. Back in the early days, they came from where? The Wattlers. And so this is where I think Cayman history and our genealogical culture and understanding is really, really important. Where do you think the Wattlers came from except for Jamaica? 2 brothers. One came and married along the browner melanin side. So that's why you have the black Wattlers in Cayman. Another one came and married the white Caymanians here. And that's why you have, the white Wattlers, and they think that they're not related, and they're all family. They're all cousins. Every single one of them came from 2 brothers who originally came to, and thanks to Oliver Wattler, by the way, who provided the historical information on this. 2 brothers, they traced it all the way back. I forget what year, 17, whatever, ancient history, but they came by way of Jamaica. Yes, they might have eventually, before that, came from England, Scotland, wherever, but they still came through Jamaica. So to say that our Jamaican connections are something recent would be a total misrepresentation of what's going on. Most Caymanian families have I think even the DaCostas, like all of them came by way of Jamaica. And that's why a lot of the names in Jamaica to this day. Now, are we getting a different caliber of individuals? Yes and no. Because in those days too, we got, not everybody was upstanding. Let me put it that way. And they did what they had to do to get ahead in life, even in the world of business. Some of them are not very good people, but we have whitewashed literally some of our history as well about what our forefathers did. Some of them had no moral compass, but now they're national heroes. You know what I mean? I don't know. Caymanians, I feel like sometimes we're not always honest with ourselves and what is actually happening in this country and what has historically happened around us as well. Some of them were the biggest child molesters this side of the Mississippi. And y'all still be like, oh, but he was a Christian. And I'm like, okay. And everybody knows what he was up to. Balika says, also, when you try to help a Caymanian, there are status holders in power who will victimize you. Let me tell you something. The other day, I'm trying to remember where I saw this young lady, Caymanian young lady. I want to say it might have even been at the airport on Sunday. My memory can't be certain, but I do know I ran into her somewhere. And she said to me, Miss Sandy, can you have a conversation about what happens in the workplace? I'm like, okay, like what? And she says, just what a hard time young Caymanians are having in the workplace. And I said, really? Tell me what's going on. She says it's the older generation Caymanians who are doing it, Tom. And I was like, oh, yeah? That's a conversation that y'all don't want to have. I think it was, if it was not at the airport, where else would I have seen her? I can't remember. But she was like, she works in corporate Cayman, corporate services and whatever. And she's like, I can't ever get a promotion or go anywhere despite being in this position for eons because my own Caymanians get a little job in there and they never want to help the younger Caymanians come up, get the experience because they're afraid that if this person knows one little bit more than me, that they're going to take my job. So we are amongst ourselves, eating ourselves to pieces. And then we think the expats can give a darn. I'm like, the math, not mathin'. So maybe what we need to be talking about, instead of this division, and it is a division between Caymanians, first generation Caymanians, second generation Caymanians, third generation Caymanians. Y'all compete with my people been here longer than yours. They've been here for 20 generations. Yours came 15 generations. I mean, instead of the constant division, right? Maybe what we need to recognize is that humans are humans, and that unfortunately, human beings are not really oftentimes the best at helping each other and doing the right thing. And so we need to hold each other more accountable. We need to have expectations, higher expectations of all of us. I can't sit here and just say that I'm going to have higher expectations just of expats, because I'm constantly preaching on this program how we as Caymanians, our own worst enemy. Are the expats making your young men and young ladies go out there fighting in the streets like hoodlums? Are the expats making that happen? Right? When I go look at the cause list, the baby killer thing is starting this week. We're not going to talk about it because it's a trial with the jurors. But are expats making Caymanians go and harm children and do things to their own children potentially? How about we have that conversation? How, as a society, we are failing on so many different levels, and we can't blame none of that on expats. Because even if you say Caymanians are picking up, oh, this dirty, down, low, dance hall culture and this, that's Caymanians choosing to do that. It's Caymanians who are your elected officials who are ruining your country. Why don't we talk about some of that? Right? And once again, are we going to blame Caymanians for that? Are we going to blame expats for that? To me, that's real accountability. Waking up, the Cayman Islands says new Caymanians are babies, not grown adults from another country. They are status holders, and I don't see anything wrong with that. They should be happy they got the opportunity to live in Cayman. And the other thing too, right? Here's the difficulty of this. This is why I struggle with this conversation always being put in the forefront in a particular way. Because when we say, and I look at some of our young people, all right? So we look at, for example, our athletes who are doing such an amazing job. And we look at young Jaden, and you have to forgive me for not remembering all their names, right? And they are doing amazing, and they carry that Cayman flag with pride. But then we know that they might be first generation Caymanian. You've seen people on here before. Well, who are his parents? We are doing our country a disservice when we feel like we can pick and choose, right? Okay, he's only going to be really acknowledged as a Caymanian if he is excelling and doing well. If he wasn't excelling, doing well, he not really a Caymanian. He a paper Caymanian. He a paper hole. How do you think it makes those people feel as well? Right? I struggle with this because I don't think it's fair. Setting aside all of the legalities, there's no such thing in law as a paper Caymanian. You're either a Caymanian, and in fact, there's no such thing as a Caymanian, to be clear, right? You have status, so you can be a status holder. You can be Caymanian as of right. There are different terminologies, but we've watered it down. We can just call ourselves Caymanian. But even how we want to see and define what a Caymanian is and who a Caymanian is, that is a very slippery sliding scale, depending on whether or not we're happy with that person. And so I gotta think that some of these guys late at night, they're like, these people would not even clean me if I wasn't winning and breaking records. And I can tell you that if I were in their shoes, I would feel a way about that. Rightfully so, by the way. So I think, I don't know. I want us to be careful with the conversations that we have, because we have the potential, as the good book says, there is power in the tongue, right? In this show, to Johan's point, yes, a lot of people come to me all the time with complaints and issues. I actually had someone on the plane yesterday ask me a question, and I gave her the information. She's like, does anybody ever come to you with a question that you don't know? And I'm like, yes, of course. There's lots I don't know. but there's a lot I might be able to help you with as well. But I just think that, I want us to be responsible, right? So I don't have an issue with expats. I have an issue with individuals who do certain things. And if they happen to be an expat, then sometimes, yes, we do look at, well, how are they here? The Larrys of the world, right? How did we get them here? And why can't we get rid of them? So my issue with Larry doesn't start with him being an expat. I'm going to give this as an example. My issue with Larry starts with him assaulting a young man. And then at that, a Caymanian young man. And then we go down the line. I don't dislike Larry because he is an expat. If he was an expat that was here, minding his own business, not causing any problems, not assaulting people, not parking in handicapped spots, not breaking our immigration laws as he has, submitting applications late, and he wasn't just generally a blinkety blink, I would have no issues with him. Yeah, I have expats friends, acquaintances, people that I will sit down and break bread with. And I don't see them, like when I sit down and talk to people, the first thing I see is not their nationality or where they're from. Or I'm not saying to them, oh, are you a card carrying member of multi-generational Cayman society? Because I need to see your card first before I can have a conversation with you. Not at all. And so it is at times challenging for me to have those types of conversations, huh? YouTuber 345 says Johan has a complex for some reason, no real respect for this show, and by extension for the host. He feels like his opinion is the only one that matters, and he comes across as very narcissistic. Well, YouTuber, I'm not going to argue with you because I think you're absolutely correct. That may be my friend. But if I cannot tell him how he comes across, I would not be a good friend at all, because that means that I'm not honest with Johan. And people say it to me all the time. And this is why I know I have exercised a lot of patience with him. Because if we're on a topic that he doesn't necessarily like, most people be like, let me just turn it off. I'll go listen to OC or something else, go listen to some nice jazz music to calm my nerves or whatever. He's the type of person who's going to get on and, oh, well, we don't want to hear about this. We don't want to talk about this. Let's change the subject. But it's not your bloody show. If you want to change the subject, that's when you get your own show and you can talk about anything you want. We've even said to Johan, the CMR family is diverse. If you want a show on here, we got the midday spot open. We're going to be on radio soon. Come and do a midday show. Because the one thing I have found with people is they can talk plenty until it's actually their turn to talk plenty. Then they realize that you can't sit here every day and be bashing, be on the expat bandwagon every single day. You know what an absolutely boring show that would be? After about 5 days of it, I don't care who y'all are, and I don't care how much you love Cayman, you'd be fatigued from that conversation. You'd be like, okay, we need to talk about something else. We are 360 individuals. We're not single vision only. Some of us got trifocals now, okay? So there's lots of conversations to be had around culture, around the weather, around health and wellness, so many things. And so there might be days that particular topic isn't of your liking, or you might not be a huge fan of it. Most people just sit back and relax themselves. But Johan, wants to steer the ship. And I'm like, get your own ship. We'll help you. You want a ship? Let's get you a little dinghy. And you start there and then you build up from there. But no, he doesn't have time for that. So I feel you, YouTuber, and I still exercise so much patience with him, despite that. Margie says, I heard that Jamaicans came primarily because they were running from the way Jamaica was changing. I think listen, I think it depends. Everyone is running from something and towards something. So even Caymanians, let's be very, very clear. One of the reasons why we have communities and pockets in Nicaragua, in the Bay Islands, etc., all over the world, is St. Petersburg, New York, the Bronx, whatever, because our people left to find job opportunities. So we were no different in that sense than the expats that we have here now. Oh, your hand. Call after 9:30 because we might have to put you in your place. Call back after 9:30, son. So you know what I'm saying? It's like we did the exact same thing. There was no way to make a living here in Cayman. And so as young as like 14, 15 years old, our boys, they were boys, but they were forced to be men, were going off to sea to try and support their families. Now, by and large, we had a reputation for being good workers, right? And we were quick learners. We understood the opportunities. We were hungry. We understood the opportunities that were available to or people who went abroad. And that's why the ships, once they started, oh, this little island is producing so many good workers. We'll take them. But does that mean that all of our seamen who went abroad weren't, doing some bad things too? Some of them did. So that's why some of y'all, when you do your 23andMe test now, you find that you got siblings that you knew nothing about in Europe or the United States of America. Because, yeah, your daddy was out there making whole new families and all kind of stuff. And it was just par for the course. So I think that, that this journey, and that's why even newer immigrants who try to move in different places for a better way of life, I can't blame them for trying. I mean, we may say, well, Cayman has enough. We can't accommodate anymore. Or we can't take you. But I certainly cannot fault and blame them for trying, because I even reflect on my own personal experience as someone who's lived in another man's country, which I know a lot of Caymanians haven't had to do that. And I did that. The reason why I moved to the US, although I was a child, was because of opportunities. I didn't move there to try and make America better. I don't even know anything about America. It was like, okay, there will be certain opportunities for me, change of environment, educational opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. It was to benefit me. And that's why most people migrate and move. It has nothing to do with benefiting the country that they move to. Now, obviously, when you get there and that becomes your second home and you fall in love with the country, you try to do right by that country. And it's those people who don't do that I inherently have a problem with. Marshall says, so of the folks that came yesterday, came startup, what some of them are benefiting from now. Alfred says, Sandy, when people say Jamaicans, what they mean a particular class or color of people who come from Jamaica, the Colonels, Fosters, the Costa, etc., they don't see them as Jamaican. Cayman is still very colorist / prejudice. But yet their start was from Jamaica. So, I mean, we have to accept, even how we define a Caymanian. I remember when Kurt Tibbetts ran for office and some of y'all found out that he was born in Jamaica, because a lot of Caymanians actually were born in Jamaica for medical reasons. Y'all were like, oh, he was born in Jamaica. He wasn't born Caymanian. But I was like, y'all need to give it up. Like, seriously, just let it go. Be like that little girl, that little princess from Frozen. Let it go. What a hot mess. Strong Wilt says, kaboom, Auntie Sandy, you're so right. Morning, Sydney says, good morning. The Bodens and Wattlers were the first settlers from Jamaica. Yeah, and I mean, listen, it is an insult when the newcomers and new Jamaicans who don't even know the history themselves just show up here and they're like, oh, well, we built Cayman. Who's we? We're always like, who we be? Who's you? You? We? Who? What? No, you didn't build Cayman. Y'all just come here for the benefits. And that's fine as long as you respect the place and you do right by the place. That's all I'm saying as well. Caymanian by birth 345 says, yes, the older Caymanians seem to think that they're the hottest ish ever seen. Caymanians really are own worst. I mean, I'm telling you, when our young people are saying it's their own Caymanians holding us down. Ms. Bonnie says, so true. Caymanians are own worst enemy. Alfred says, exactly, Sandra. Which is why I'm against the petition of legalizing the term generational Caymanians. It just brings more division. And the last thing we need is more division, right? I'm sorry, but I also really, really feel strongly about that. Alfred goes on to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Sandra, isn't it true that legally speaking, there's no such thing as a Caymanian? That's right. That is 1,000% accurate. Island Breeze says, was the mom in the baby case ever charged, or at least has her other kids been taken away from her? She was not charged. And I also don't think that she has lost custody of the other children. But we got to watch this case to see what role she will play in it, because I suspect there's a specific reason why Okay. All right. Let me see. Cinnamon says there's no such thing as a Caymanian. Interesting. No. And you know, the crazy thing is so many Caymanians don't even know that. They think that that word is a word legally, and it isn't. It's just something that we have made up. So there you go. We'll get you a dinghy, no behavior. Lord have mercy. Caymanians running to the UK also. Hello. Why don't y'all talk about the Caymanians that leaving Cayman trying to go use somebody else's country benefits? Every single one of them that gone to the UK. What do you think? What do you think they're going there for? Some of y'all, it's about time the UK gave us something. Really? You're looking for someone to give you something in life? I'm just saying. Barbara J says the truth is some Caymanians don't even know their own heritage, their own true heritage. Meanwhile, their own children are dating expats. YouTuber says it's clear, Sandra. As you allow him back in, less than no time, he's disrespectfully disagreeing. And he can disagree. I want to be very, very clear here. There's a lot that Johan and I do not see eye to eye on, and he can disagree all he wants. Where the line begins to be crossed, for sure, is if it's disrespectful. And he does it in a low-key way where it's not overt, but anybody with a little bit of sense, YouTuber, can see the overtones and undertones that come with how he says what he says, right? And so I allow people a lot of leeway until the day I get up and say no more. And then that's it. So I am cognizant of how Johan speaks. I don't take it personal because I also don't think it's necessarily personal towards me. I think once you know Johan, you know that that's just how he is. He probably speaks to 99% of the people in his life that way. And that's why some people might call him a narcissist. But that's a matter for Johan. We're not going to get into any clinical diagnosis in relation to him. But I could definitely see how people definitely, think that way. So Miss Marjorie says, I'm one of them Jamaicans who knew I wanted to leave Jamaica after Jamaica went into independence and Black Power set in January 1973. So it's so interesting, Miss Marjorie, that you've identified yourself, because I can now tell you that people like Alfred would say, you see, that proves my point. Miss Bancroft, Marjorie Bancroft, and others like her, Keem, they were either not so many. I think you might be one of the few Indian Jamaicans that came back in those days, but there was a few that came who were merchant class, and mostly it was white Jamaicans. And Alfred has a very, very, very valid point, right? a lot of the white Jamaicans had the finances and the opportunity to leave Jamaica when things started to go down. The poor Black ones in the inner city, not up in the hills and whatever, they didn't have those opportunities. So unfortunately, they could not leave. That was the history of Jamaica and the mass exodus of people who left. Now, immigration, even for Jamaica, has changed. And we find now that the class of people who now have opportunities because of our work system, mostly hiring domestic workers from Jamaica and laborers, those people now have an opportunity to leave, even if it's just for a work permit situation. And so, you know, a lot of the Jamaicans who left themselves back in that day was prejudiced as you could come. So I think Alfred has a very, very valid point when he talks about the colorism of even how we think about Jamaicans who have come from there to migrate into Cayman. And so again, Miss Marjorie, you came here for economic opportunities. You didn't come here to build Cayman. You came here, your husband, I think, used to work in banking. He got a really good job at a bank. You came and noticed that, you know, oh, wow, Cayman could really use a tape club. And so you've opened up a tape club and you had good success with that business. Now, the question is your children and your grandchildren who now are Caymanians, right? Because if you have your hand, they're paper Caymanians too. So how have they benefited? This is such an interesting question. As a first generation expat into this country, how have your children who've now become Caymanians benefited? Well, we see your son is always on here complaining he can't get a job as a Caymanian. And he's literally a first generation Caymanian. So you see what a tangled web this becomes. If we start to, you know, judge people based on, well, you're first generation, you're second generation. How is it that a first generation expat couldn't get it to work for their first generation Caymanian children and grandchildren? I mean, there's just so many questions that have to be answered, I think. Or if you really wanted to sit here and dig all day, you could be digging for years to come and never really had any solid answers. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Sandra. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
Okay. I got something on the stove, so I got to watch the stove. But I just wanted to call in and give a little bit of a historical context about the about what was going on in Jamaica and colorism. It's important to understand that in the before I get to the 1950s, in the days of slavery, right? Because I know when people think of slavery, you know, I guess with all the movies that come from the States and stuff, we tend to think of American slavery. Right. When the whites came from Europe, so the United States at the time, right? There was a large enough number of white people that they could choose to kind of marry within themselves, right? Well, I must stop notifying me that the thing. So what they did was that they married into each other, and it was actually kind of frowned upon on the one or two occasions that you had, you know, the one white master who would marry or, you know, have children with one of his slaves. In Jamaica now, as in much of the Caribbean, when people came, most of society was Black. You had very, very few white people. So when the masters were choosing they may have had their wives and they may have been unmarried, but when they were ready now to, I'll word it politely, procreate, right? They really didn't have much else to choose from other than the Black population. So a lot more of them married into the Black community, and the children they produced became mixed, right? So what happened now? Naturally, if those are my children, if I'm a white master and those are my children, I'm going to give them better opportunities than say the little I don't want to use the word, but I feel like I can't make my point if I don't use the word. The little field niggas out in the field, right? So what happens over time is that those with lighter skin, not white, mind you, we're talking mixed people of lighter skin, they were given better opportunities and better resources with which to go forward in life. So over time, as time went on, there was this culture in Jamaica that lighter is better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what people don't understand is that there was an extraordinary advantage that the little bit of whiteness gave the colored minority. Because, you know, having an ancestor who worked in the house and not in the fields, who got full civil rights in 1826, they got a shot at meaningful work. I mean, if you look at in the 1950s, this is before now you had the mass exodus of white Jamaicans coming from Jamaica into Cayman, right? Blacks made up about 80% of the Jamaican population then.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at, say something like, think of lawyers, right? Law has always been a prestigious career. I'm looking at a statistic right now. 38.8% of those lawyers were Jamaicans who were white or who were very light skinned.
Mm-hmm.
10% were olive skinned. 17% were light brown. 10% were dark brown. 5% were black. So as you go down the color scale, and I'm using that term loosely, right? You see that the people who made up the prestigious jobs and had the class and had all of the advantages and the privileges, as they went down were the darker skinned people. So I mean, I say that to say, after generations of being held down, and even though, you know, slavery was abolished and people had their rights and stuff, people were still taking off of the advantages that came from before, right? So what I don't want to see in Cayman is this thing of, we're going to now start dividing people into, okay, well, Caymanian, or then paper Caymanian. Oh, well, now we got generational Caymanian. Okay, well, generational Caymanian. All right, well, I got 8 generation Caymanian. Oh, well, I got 10 generation Caymanian, so I'm more Caymanian than you. And I got 13 generation Caymanian. Oh, by the way, my mother, my great grandmother, whatever, was so and so. And like, they're gonna just turn into what Jamaica was and white people had to leave. And then you just end up, the bucket just gets kicked down the road. Anyway, just wanted to get that off my chest.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that those are some good points. I mean, let me be very, very clear. You know, even Miss Marjorie has said things here about Black Jamaicans that has made me wonder about where she stands on this issue of colorism. And let's be very, very honest. Indians that went to Jamaica, they were imported into Jamaica after slavery was abolished as indentured servants. Exactly. Yeah. So the Indians that are being honest with themselves, they basically went to Jamaica as slaves themselves, just that they got a little pittance for it in terms of money, right? Indentured servants. That's a form of slavery, no matter how you slice it. So, you know, some of them think that they're better than the Africans. And I really do have an issue with that because, again, it brings out this whole colorism situation. That is what it boils down to. It boils down to color. No, there's no other two ways to explain it.
I'd like to share 2 things if you'll allow me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Jamaican sociologist, or there was a Jamaican sociologist. His name was Fernando Henriquez, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote, I'm going to read what he wrote. He said, the most likely colored will be favored at the expense of the others.
Mm-hmm.
In adolescence and until marriage, the darker members of the family will be kept out of the way when the friends of the fair or fairer members of the family are being entertained.
Mm-hmm.
The fair child is regarded as raising the color of the family.
Yeah.
And nothing must be put in the way of its success that is in the way of a marriage, which will still further raise the color status of the family. A fair person will try to sever social relations he may have with darker relatives. The darker members of a Negro family will encourage the efforts of a very fair relative to quote-unquote pass for white. The practices of intra-family relations lay the foundation for the public manifestation of color prejudice. And then this book, I think we were talking about it the other day, the Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers. He says here, he was kind of talking about how his own family benefited from that kind of generational, coming from a whiter, lighter background. Here is one. He says, one of my mother's relatives, I'll call her Aunt Joan, was also well up the color totem pole. She was white and light, but her husband was what in Jamaica is called an Indian, a man with a dark complexion and straight, fine black hair. And their daughters were dark like their father. One day after her husband had died, she was traveling on a train to visit her daughter, and she met and took an interest in a light-skinned man in the same railway car. What happened next is something that Aunt Joan told only my mother years later with the greatest of shame. When she got off the train, she walked right by her daughter, disowning her own flesh and blood because she didn't want a man so light-skinned and desirable to know that she had borne a daughter so black.
Right? So sad.
So this is like, I hear where Miss Marjorie is coming from too, but I also have to put context out there as to, like when she made the comment about when she leaving, when the blacks took over power. I mean, after years and years and years, like generations of keeping black people down and keeping them down and they can't rise above. I mean, at a certain point, the kettle boils over. So anyway, just putting that out there.
Thank you so much. I'll take another
I
call.
don't want that to happen to Cayman.
Yes,
right.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's already here at some level. YouTuber says the lighter is better mentality is still rampant right here in Cayman. And, I think it's one of those things that unfortunately is rampant all over the world. Even in the Asian cultures, they bleach themselves too. They want fair features to look Europeans, they, have cosmetic procedures. The cosmetic capital of the world is actually Korea. And they're sitting there trying to take their little Chinese eyes, Korean, Asian eyes, and make it more round and bigger and whatever, because they have a standard of beauty that is whitewashed. And so Jamaica suffers from colorism and straight up racism. Somebody mentioned Abby Faith said, this is a history class right here. The caller speaking facts. And because of that mentality came the bleaching era. And some good points, colorism is real. Spice did a song on it. And it's something that people struggle with all the time. And of course, Cayman is no exception to that rule. We struggle with colorism. Children grew up here being understanding that they are different, even within the same families, as a caller said, where one came out a little bit more fair skinned than the other one. The one who was more fair skinned was treated preferentially than the darker skinned child. And it's something that, again, what other lines are we going to divide ourselves along is the question. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Candy, and everyone else at home.
Morning, Miss Lucille.
You say something this morning about Caymanian used to go to Jamaica for medical reason. That is so true. It was no Miami in them early days. What they used to do, there was a lady in Jamaica at Portland Road by the name of Miss Thompson. I don't know if her daughter Peggy is still in Cayman. So those days, Caymanians, and what hurt me, I don't like how we Jamaican come there and try to live against Caymanian. I'm not happy about that. We need to live as one. We are very close. We are very close. But those days, even the bread can used to come from Jamaica in the early days. And it's all a Caymanian will tell you that. Most Caymanian is Jamaica, they go to doctor, and Miss Thompson at the guest house that here we used to stay at Portland Road. And I think she have a daughter living in Cayman still by the name of Peggy. I don't know if she's still there. Ralph, Joyce, and Liza, when I start to work with them, when I just got to Cayman Island, they said Ralph Joyce was the only first person that have a truck going from East End, driving West Bay and all them places. I think he was an American. I take care of them until Ralph Joyce passed away. Then the niece took Miss Liza, which is the wife. So I know all about it because they have 2 children when I go there working, hanging on the wall because of medical treatment. That's why they lost their 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that is so true. And we should be living good with each other. We should be living good. We are close enough. We should be living good.
Mm-hmm.
But my own people, my nationality, they want to come. The late one that's coming now, they want to come, run Caymanians and those Jamaicans that they come there and find.
Right.
And it's the truth I'm speaking. And if they don't like it, I don't care. I'm speaking the truth. Anyway, you all take care at home.
Thank you.
I love you all.
Thank you very much.
Love
Appreciate
you
it.
all.
Thank you so much. Yes, some really salient points there. So give me 1 second. Still trying to figure out my mouse at times and where it's gone. Here we go. So thank you. So Miss Marjorie says, my ex is white Jamaican. By age 28, he was VP of the Bank of Montreal in Jamaica. He worked in banking. When he should be promoted, they told him it's black man's time now. Both my parents are white. His mother was from England. His grandfather was an Anglican priest. Yes, he was from India. Both sides of my family trace back to India. We are the first children to marry non-Indians. Okay. Anita Ebanks says, I have experienced what the caller was talking about throughout my life. For some family and friends, I wasn't light enough, and for some, not dark enough. Lord Jesus, Miss Anita. So does that mean that there's no such thing as a Jamaican until they got their independence from Britain? Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, that would probably be accurate to say. Once you become independent, then you're whatever your country is called. Marshall says, give that mouse some cheese, right? All right, here's some comments coming in on the WhatsApp. Morning, Sandy. Congrats to my cousin Gary and his retirement. He's an awesome pilot. We'll miss him being in control in our skies. Immigration actually affects so many aspects of our islands, i.e. stress on our infrastructure, schools, roads, sewage, the dump, land usage. How will our island look when the ratio of new versus generational Caymanians continues to widen, etc.? In years to come, if there's a job that your daughter or my granddaughter are qualified for and they're competing against a new Caymanian child, normally humans will revert back to their own nationals as that is who they know and have an affiliation with. I agree that Caymanians went to other countries to work, but the difference is that we did not make up the majority of the population in those countries, and thus their citizens did not feel threatened by us. Well, I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that they weren't threatened by us. Were there people on those boats that's every time a Caymanian would come on the boats, did they feel threatened, or were they so national that that was not something that was on the top of their minds? That would be something I would have to ask a seaman, like someone who was actually out to sea. Otherwise, there's no way that I could tell you that because I wasn't there. Any seamen's listening to it? Did any of the people on the boats feel threatened by you all when you went to work at sea? This person says, facts, government has not assisted any of these families whose children are excelling in their chosen sport until after they have obtained standing. And they go on to say, nah, the white Jamaicans fled to Cayman, because of the political violence, and it was mainly the palm-colored Jamaicans. And of course, the political violence led to economic instability. And so they wanted, as their dollar was deteriorating, they wanted to protect what money they had. And so there's lots of them who had, and I can tell you this for a fact, I'm thinking of one of my good friends right now, her family, they were somebody in Jamaica. They're not necessarily somebody in Cayman because, she came here, they left, dispersed. Some went to Canada. Her parents went to Canada. She ended up in Cayman working for another white Jamaican in industry here who owned a company. I'm not going to call their name, but, she dedicated probably 40 years before retiring recently to that particular company. So even as they moved, you find a lot of Jamaicans kind of still stuck together within that class, within that group. of individuals, or if they had the financial means, they would start something for themselves. So, it is what it is. And like I said, we have a lot of them still here in Cayman. Now their children are first generation born Caymanians. Some of them are thinking, like, take, for example, Dr. Marzuka. He married somebody who was a Caymanian. Now his son is obviously a Caymanian. But his son, on at least half of the family, is first generation Caymanian. Are we going to sit here and tell his son that you're not a real Caymanian because one of your parents is not Caymanian? That's like y'all telling my daughter that she's not a real Caymanian because her father's Jamaican, and that she must justify, who she is and how she got to be Caymanian. I mean, at some point, it really does become ridiculous. And so, again, going back to the question of at what point do we stop splitting hairs and try to bring some unity to the conversation? And if she excels in whatever in life, is she only going to be acknowledged as a Caymanian if she does well? Right? I don't know. Someone says, thank God I left. Thailand protects their own, just saying. Well, that's a whole other hot mess over there. You can say that, but without without foreign money and all those nasty, perverted foreign men going there killing little Thai children for sex, what would Thailand even be? They still, you might say they protect their own, but they still very much rely on foreigners coming to their country for visitors, for sex, their sex tourism industry and all that sort of stuff. The little Thai lady boys, all of that is a flourishing industry because of expats, not because of the Thai people. So let's be real now. If we call a spade a spade. I'm just saying. Still a hot mess over yonder. And someone talking about some of these people in this chat, when they first came to Cayman, they were so prejudiced, extremely prejudiced and racist when they first moved to Cayman. Even as a child, had to put them in their place, including schooling her daughter. She knows not to F with me. So, boy, the prejudiceness is next level crazy. Really and truly. I was reading a story the other day about this these two brothers in Jamaica. In the States. They were both Black, but one was a couple shades lighter and could pass for white. And so he did. He moved, I forget where. And then the other one, I think, stayed in New Orleans. I got to find the story. It was such a fascinating story. And he actually, they have had very, very different lives. Let me see, because there's, and I mean, they were full brothers, It's just that literally, let me see. I think this was on Facebook that I saw this. But literally they, who did I share it with? I shared it with somebody. So one was able to marry white and pretend like he was white and lived a very different life because of that. So wild. And we have to accept that this is part and parcel of the reality of migration as well. You're more likely to be able to migrate, for example. By the way, we haven't talked about World Cup because we didn't have a show yesterday. But big shout out to Spain, who won. Congratulations to them. Donkey of the day was definitely Donald Trump trying to push his way into the photos and photo ops and whatever. But Spain did well. I mean, my God, what an exciting game. I was in Tampa, but I was able to watch it on my phone. And I mean, I was thinking, are they going to go into overtime with no one having scored? And in the end, Spain was able to pull it out, right? So congratulations. And there's these listen, it just popped up on my thing again, trending all over, is Spain being accused of editing Donald Trump out of the World Cup victory photo. Well, who can blame them? Who can blame them? I don't blame them. Good, edit him out. That's exactly what he should get. What's he doing pushing himself up on them people for? Anywho, did Shensia get a haircut? She's making oxtail pasta. Wow, I didn't realize her hair was so short now. Or is that a wig? You can't tell with these people. She actually has naturally very pretty hair, but I do know she wears wigs to protect her hair from all the styling and stuff. Anyway, oh, honey child. Anyway, so yes, at the end of the day, when we talk about Argentina, I briefly mentioned this on Friday's show. You can't talk about Argentina without talking, apparently, which is not something I knew. I don't really know much about Argentina. I'm trying to think if I know any Argentinians even, but they are a country that has done a large degree of whitewashing, and, like doing some really shady stuff to whitewash their country. And I'm trying to think, I don't know any Black Argentinians. So I guess that has worked extremely well for them. I don't know. Has it worked well for them? I guess. Because here y'all in the Caribbean loving them like I don't know what. But I think there's a lot of countries that have this whitewashing mentality. And what are we gonna, what are we gonna say? What are we gonna do? Except we can't be part and parcel of it. Right? So I can't encourage this type of behavior or hate. And hate is a very powerful thing, right? When we start dividing people along the lines of nationality, okay, that's not enough. It has to go further. First generation, second generation, that's not enough. Then it's like, well, you don't look like this. You don't look like that. That's not enough. You're too dark. You're too light. It's not, it's just like, where does it end? And that's the biggest issue I have with the division. So I think we can have these conversations, but I do think we need to be responsible and careful about how we say it and how far that it goes, right? I'm about accountability no matter who you are. And in fact, I think our people need to be more accountable than anybody else. Because this is our country. And yes, when it's destroyed, many of you are not going to have any options in terms of going anywhere else. So let's build Cayman. But in order to do that, we also need to make sure that our people are positioned to be able to take on the responsibility. And that's why you ask any Caymanian about going independent, they will tell you we can never go independent because we are never going to be ready on our own affairs because we have nothing but corrupt politicians and politicians who are self-serving. Is that somehow an expat's fault? Good morning, Johan.
Good morning.
Hello.
Are you finished now with the Johan bashing?
Lord have mercy.
It's a simple yes or no.
No.
Okay. I just called back.
Nobody's bashing you, Johan.
Listen, I listen to the show when I'm not on calls, so I get what's going on. It's your show. You do a fantastic job, and your word has to be the last word. I get it. I respect it. Do your thing. That's why we all listen. However, for those of you that are or did not comprehend, I did not say anything that was anti or that was racist, that was bigoted. I mentioned the fact that in the Cayman Islands, we have to find a way to ensure that those persons that are truly interested in living with us, being with us, and becoming us actually have respect for us. I didn't say anything that would cause what I thought was a overreaction. Your analysis is your analysis, but my command of English is fair to good, and I know how to be ignorant and to say things that are harsh and mean. But I was just making the point of, in Cayman, you got to have some connectivity to things Cayman if you want to become Caymanian, i.e., having some Caymanian friends never hurt you. Knowing and having your kids playing with Caymanian kids, visiting their house, having them visit your house. I use some very vanilla examples, and it's become this other thing. Some people have been offended by what was said. That's their prerogative. But if you're telling me that the Cayman Islands or people of the Cayman Islands that are right-minded, law-abiding citizens want to see our country become like a Jamaica, like a Trinidad, like a Bahamas, like any of those other places that were once great countries, but now truly are places that you need to be careful of when you go. And everybody seems to think that Cayman is a financial mecca because many people are desperate to come here, to work here, to live here, and to stay here. There was nothing that I said that was racist or discriminatory.
Well, no, but nobody said. I mean, to be clear, we started to have a broader conversation, right?
Yeah,
so,
and I heard some of the stuff about, Johan's a narcissist and he should get his own show. I could never do what you do because what you do takes a whole lot of time, and you're really good at it, and you've monetized that, and I'm super proud of you because you've turned talking into a real job that pays you well, and I'm proud of you, especially because you're Caymanian, especially because you're a person, a native, especially because you're a person of color that many people despise or talk down about, but they still write a check to you to make sure that you can provide the service that gets them the results that they're looking for. That's fantastic, and we need more Caymanian entrepreneurs like that. I've said that 10,000 times, it feels like, and I'll say it again because it's the absolute truth. But I'm just calling back in to say, if more Caymanians stood up for themselves, but better yet, if more Caymanians stood up for each other, we wouldn't be the minority in our own country that we are mentally, because numerically we're already a minority, but mentally and our outlook on life, we feel and are made to feel inferior, and we allow people to show a complete lack of respect for us, our heritage, our lineage, our way, and we accept that all Caymanians are less lazy, not up to scratch. But if those persons that came here that are now the economic powerhouses didn't come here, I mean, why did they come here? Because apparently where they came from is first world, and it's fantastic, and everybody lives in a castle, and everybody has a better life. And all I'm saying is there's nothing wrong in having Caymanian pride. There's nothing wrong in standing up, speaking out, and saying, no, I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me. I'm not going to allow you to say demeaning things about my culture.
You and I we have no division on that, right? That's not.
Apparently my tone and my delivery offends you. But
well, I mean, as someone just said, you are the master of a backhanded compliment. And I think that sometimes you are. And like I said, I'm not trying to take it personal because I don't think you can help yourself. I mean,
if I wanted to offend you, no, make no mistake. If I wanted to offend you,
no, but what I'm saying is,
that wouldn't matter to me.
No, but here's the thing, right? Maybe instead of you saying even that, right, you should think to yourself, if people hear you complimenting someone and still say, well, that's a backhanded compliment, you're the master of a backhanded compliment, maybe what you should work on is how to make compliments that don't appear, even if it's just appearance. Maybe that's not your intention.
Sandra, the people that write about you and me don't know you or me. I'm at your house, you're at my house. We're comfortable with each other on that level. You know me better than them, and I know you better than some of these same people that have a million things to say. But when they see me on the street, they don't speak to me. And I promise you, they've never called me or messaged me. People are entitled to their opinions, but your opinions don't mean that you're right.
That can be a very true position, yes.
So You can hear Johan on the radio, and Johan is this, and Johan's that. Johan's a proud Caymanian, a proud multi-generational Caymanian that will defend any and all Caymanians. If you are a new Caymanian and you put in your time and you show that this is your home and this is the home that your children know, and you have integrated yourself with Caymanian people, I'll be the first to stand up and go, you can't talk to John or Susan like that.
Yeah.
They've been here forever. I'm the first person to do that. So all these people that hide behind, whatever they you don't know their names, what they're writing, and they have these opinions, you're entitled to your opinion, guys. Danaga killed me, but you don't know me.
All right.
The way that people don't know you. You do a fantastic, you help so many people. You help more people in social services. Nobody don't know that. Johan does. But yet, when you're ready to take heat, they give it to you hard. And whenever somebody gives you heat, I'm the first person to go, Sandra, not like that. You don't really know her. So that's all I'm saying. The views of outsiders don't matter to me.
Okay.
Just don't take liberties with the truth, because my command of English is really strong and I'm really clear in how I express myself, because you provided invaluable service to this country. And I use the platform when I think, Sandra, what about X? What about Y? And that's what we do. We speak about every other day, you and I. So I just take the conversation on a national level. And if people like it and they get it, great. And if they don't, that's life.
Yeah. All right.
So
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap things up. I do need to do some catching up on paperwork and stuff because I was away. We got lots of conversations this week that no doubt we will be having. So Faith says, especially that you're a woman, one that I admire too, back at radio back in 2005, when I first listened to you, to now on my phone and TV. Thank you so much, Faith and Hope. Appreciate it. Anthony says, very patriotic comments, Johan. Only word you omitted was us natives. Lord have mercy. Jesus Christ. Don't start sounding like Carrie now. Us natives Caymanians, us natives. Oh, Lord Jesus. I don't even know. Anyway, speaking of her, speaking of the devil, somebody sent me, I try not to speak of her too often because God knows I don't even give a shit. Like, y'all have to know how thinking about her makes me want to barf on most days. But obviously, I'm proceeding with my court situation. But somebody said apparently she's going around telling them fool bracas. You're only a fool braca if you believe her. If you believe the truth and what's been reported, and you have the documents to see for yourself, then I certainly would not consider you a fool blanca. But apparently, the lady said she can't wait to expose you at trial. Some of y'all need to live in the real world, and she is definitely one of them. She is so incredibly delusional. Delulu. It's not even funny. I'm like, expose me at trial? The only thing you can expose somebody with is the truth. And that's what I have on my side, the truth and the law. So I don't know where they got this, but these are matter public records, so it doesn't really matter. They sent the, hold on. They shared a copy of the, oh no, that's not it. Hold on. They shared a copy of the, hold on one second, of the last order, which dismissed her attempts. It says it can't share it. But basically the last order, every single hearing we've had, I've won the points. And so the last order, which dismissed minute of order, dismissed her attempts to have the order discharged. So I'm like, okay, how is she gonna be winning this? The judge told her you don't have a defense. Claiming that it was a roast when it wasn't is not a defense. And so everything she's lost already, but at trial she's gonna win. Child, please. That woman lies. Every hole that she's lying out of that friggin' hole. That's how much of a liar she is. Okay? It's just disgusting and ridiculous how much this woman lies. The judge has been putting her in her place from day one. And then what she does is, I want y'all to come. I want every single one of you to show up at trial so this woman can't be sitting there twisting the truth. Because she'll sit there and start crying to the court. Your honor, I can't take this anymore. What are you guys trying to do? Are you trying to kill me? I can't take it anymore. blood. And then she gets on her show and pretend like she just won the case. I'm like, girl, please, you do know this is open court, right? See, the thing is, she does not even know who's sitting in the galley and who's sitting there watching it. And she just be lying like a rug. Oh, Your Honor, I can't take any more of this. I can't help myself. I'm a litigant in person. Well, so am I. And you caused this on yourself. The judge was just like, would you like to take a 5 or 10 minute break to sort yourself out? No, me and my crocodile tears are just fine. Oh no. I had like, girl, if you know how fucking ugly you look when you be trying to cry, please don't do that. Anyway, we'll be victorious in the Lord, honey child. Oh, I don't even want Lulu. She just gets on my nerves, yo. It's like next level ridiculous. 70% native Caymanians. That's what us natives. We're natives. I'm now starting to be offended by the word natives because that girl be using that to make us look like we run around naked in the bushes like her with these friggin' cats. 70% native Caymanians, ultra low IQ, says Duke Marin. Sorry, can't be thought any reasonable logic, or do you mean taught reasonable logic? Now you are Marin and you come from Soka, who will tell you that you're misusing that word. So honey child, you better get your English together. Shaka says Argentina does have Afro descendants who were lied to about receiving freedom and equal rights after fighting for Argentina's independence. They're slowly being erased from the country's history. So sad for Argentina. Rose, Lulu, we covered that in the first hearing. So go back, you can read the article. Yeah, that was her first hearing. And she told the judge that, it was all a big joke. The defamatory stuff she was saying about me was funny. And the judge was like, he actually read her. Because, in my writ of summons and the evidence, I put a quote in there. He read it out. He said, you think this is funny. Then she says, apparently, that us native Caymanians, us natives, this is what we do. We insult each other and defame each other all the time and say absolutely horrific things about each other. And that's what Caymanians do. She's such an embarrassment. I said, Your Honor, not that this is a legal point, but you're not a Caymanian. So please let me assure you that Caymanians don't do this kind of thing. She does not represent natives and native Caymanians. I was like, Your Honor, please. We most of us, can't speak for all, are aspiring to do better. So we don't have a date yet, Lulu, because she has to file her defense, right? So of course she claims that she has a defense. The judge already kind of low-key told her she doesn't, but she claims that she has a defense. And you see, she's so stupid because she doesn't seem to understand that there's only certain things in law that can be a defense to defamation. The ultimate defense is the truth. She's already claimed that it wasn't true. So she's admitted that it wasn't true, but it was meant to be a joke. It was meant to be a roast. And the judge is like, that's not a defense in law to defamation. So once we have the date set, because she's got to file her documents first, and then we got to prepare bundles. And of course, every step of the way, she's tried to delay it. She tried to delay it, claiming her mother's sick and she's her mother's primary caregiver, which is a motherfucking lie. She was so close to Miss Francine. I'm like, don't put Miss Francine's name in your mouth. You are disgusting. And her best friend died. Miss Francine was like a second mother to her, and she died. So now she can't prepare for court. The judge was like, what? No. So she's lost on even her attempts to get stuff delayed. She's lost on all of those points. And this girl's still around telling people, but she's going to be winning something. Okay, y'all sit and believe her because you're just as delusional as her, but that's fine. In the end, it will speak for itself. RMR says there should be an end to the granting of status to anyone. We need to find balance in our society and economy. Caymanians must stand up and speak their truth, but not with hate, racism, or bigotry. Well, that indeed is a challenge, honey child. Like I said, even for me, I mean, there are times when, I feel perturbed by a particular situation, but I have to back up and ask myself, where is this coming from? Where is this feeling coming from? Am I upset at this individual for doing this particular thing? That I should be careful not to paint everybody with the same brush? I mean, we accept there's certain caliber of individuals who just bring down. I mean, just like Caymanians. Imagine if expats treated us like we were all Carrie Tibbetts of the world. How would we feel? I know I'm insulted. I'm like, don't compare me to her. So, yeah, I'm like, that's an insult to me as a Caymanian. I don't give a shit that she's multi-generational Caymanian. She's a fucking fool. So don't compare me to her. Ay. Honey child, it literally takes all kinds to make the world work, right? She claims she's single again and she's happy about it. But then in court, somebody sent me this yesterday. I just had to shake my head. Like, I can't even respond. Y'all send me stuff and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even. So someone sent me this thing of her where she posts up, she's single again. Your husband left you because you're not. Okay? Nobody can blame the man. He had enough of your issues. But yet, if you're so happy to be single again, why are you crying in court to the judge and in emails about how your husband abandoned you? And that's why you can't pay your bills and you don't have the money. Oh, I need to check and see what the deadline is by that other order that she's supposed to pay me my cost. Oh my God, I got to go check that because she got 28 days to pay that. And she even asked for an extension on that to pay $500 and change. And the judge said no. So she's never won a single thing yet. You better find my money. In the words of Rihanna, you better find my money, bitch. That's right. She don't have no defense. But in her craziness, she thinks she's got one. Lord have mercy. Miss Dean says, hence the reason I'm stuck to CMR. Johan Sandy is so intelligent, inspiring, smart, and real. Thank you so much. Listen, nobody's perfect. And we all have, I suppose, elements of our personality. Let's take her picture down, shall we? See enough of that. We all have our moments. We all have elements of our personality where some days we're just not, where we need to be. And there's absolutely nothing wrong in life with just saying, look, I'm having an off day. I misspoke. Strong-willed, trained hush. Exactly. Right? Anyway, let's not talk about her anymore. Let's not bring ourselves down to her level of discourse because she's just so not worth it. Oh my gosh. Lord Jesus. Anywho, let's talk about more important things, honey child. So yes, this woman that was found dead in her apartment. Oh my God. We're the ones who reached out to the police because they weren't saying anything about that. And I can tell you all the backstory there in terms of who reached out. So I'll give you some information on that perhaps tomorrow. But we're going to see if we can book Miss Marla to come on the show. And, our application for radio was supposed to be heard, but it got postponed because they ran out of time. Listen, the Off-Reg board is actually pretty busy and they only meet once a month from what I understand. They're not having 50 gazillion meetings because they're not trying to waste the public purse. So they try to squeeze in as much as they can. So we were supposed to be heard this month. Unfortunately, they ran out of time. So it'll be next month. And don't worry, we are doing a lot in between to get things sorted out so that we can be well on our way. Because that's going to be such an amazing game changer for us to be able to have our own radio station, more shows. So if you have the gift of gab, let me say this, and not just a gift, I shouldn't even say it like that, because some people love to talk, but they still can't sustain a show. It's not as easy as you think. And I'm not saying that trying to, right, Lulu? I'm not saying that trying to make y'all believe that I got some special talent here. I'm just telling you, doing a show for 2+ hours some days that is engaging and literally you have still 300 people sitting down listening to you is not as easy as you think. It can be very difficult. But I say challenge yourselves. You never know. When I was in university, did I see myself, although I was doing speech comms as one of my minors, did I ever see myself? And by the way, did y'all know, just as an aside, in university, my degree, USF, was professional technical writing. My minors, I did 2 dual minors. I did speech comm, so I can feel comfortable talking to my people, just speech communications, and abnormal psychology. Lord God, did I that must have been some prophetic vision. Who knew that I'd have to deal with some crazies in life? And that would actually come in handy. I certainly did not foresee that. I just thought it was interesting. Like I started taking 1-2 classes. I'm like, oh my God, this class is so interesting. And then all of a sudden, they're like, well, if you do this many more, you're gonna have credits for minor. And I was like, really? A minor in abnormal psychology? I knew there was a thing, honey chill. I was all for it. I was like, yes, I will do that. Oh, it was good. That's why sometimes I sit down and understand a lot more about these people and their mental tics than you realize, honey child. Them couple little courses. Imagine me being a psychologist, people sitting down on the sofa telling me their problems. Anywho, I'm cooking dinner for some friends tonight, so I got to make my world famous mac and cheese, my gourmet mac and cheese, honey chill. So I got to get in the kitchen a little bit later on. But anywho, what I was saying is, yes, what the hell was I? Oh, yes. If you fancy yourself wanting to host a show and wanting to be part of the CMR family when it comes to radio, call me. All you can do is try it. I know, Lulu, I had to laugh when call me. You try it. It may not be what you think, because like I said, a lot of people are surprised at what it takes and and it's not what, So try it. You might like it. You might find you have a calling in it, as well as you might not. You might like, oh no, honey child, it's not for me. You never know. Look at what an amazing job Sabrina's doing. Applause. Woo! Yes, honey child. And you just never know. I'm sure 5 years ago, you couldn't have told her she would have been a full-time host. She would have been like, not really. But you never know. The world, as they say, is your oyster. Or perhaps we should say, the world is your, what do you call it? Your turtle, your stew turtle. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, folks. Oh my God. One thing to make y'all chuckle today is you gotta see okay. Huh. Okay, this is interesting. All right. You've got to see the memes, of course, that are being created around the World Cup as it relates to Donald Trump and the fact that he wouldn't get out the people them picture. This one takes the cake, I do say so myself. Hold on one second. Okay. Come on, internet. It's not the local internet that's doing this, but hold on. So this is just so incredibly funny. Basically, here we go. There we go. The Last Supper. And there's Donald Trump inserting himself in to the picture there. Ay, ay, ay. What a hot mess. No, sir. So funny. So funny. Only Jesus could really intervene in a situation like that. I hear you there, Miss Cleo. Call me for your free reading. That's so funny. All right, I think I'm going to restart my computer. That might fix what's going on. I don't know. I'm going to try reboot and see what that does. And then we will see you guys tomorrow. Tune in early because we're trying to secure, I'm just messaging her now. We're trying to secure Miss Marla Dukran on the program. And she's going to come on and talk about her survey, why she's doing it, who she thinks is going to help, the whole 9 yards, why you should participate, what should Cayman's population be, and we'll dig deep. Sounds good? Y'all have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.